and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser, and today I am talking to Jill Robinson from Organic Pilates, and we are going to be talking about something that's really important to me, namely women's health, particularly peri- and postmenopausal women, because, well, we're all heading that way eventually, with a bit of luck. I'm heading in that direction because I am now, 40. And so it was really cool. Recording this after I spoke to Jill, we spent a lot of time laughing. It's a hilarious interview. We talk about orgasms, we talk about not farting, we talk about incontinence, and we talk about testicles to spectacles. And I was about to say, so if any of those things make you feel uncomfortable, then you can turn off. But actually, no, if any of those things make you feel uncomfortable, you should bloody well listen to this episode, because we don't talk about this stuff. And I touched on this a little bit when Jill and I were talking, but one of the things that actually gives me the rage is that I was like 40 years old before I could say the word period without feeling embarrassed about it. How shit is that? And that is the level of, I think it's better for girls and boys nowadays than it was when I was young. But I carry this kind of low-level seething rage about the lack of information that I was provided with as a child, and the lack of information that we're provided with about what happens to our bodies when we get older is equally enraging. And so this is what Jill does. This is the work that she does. And I was talking to her about the book that she's written, or both books that she's written. And so that's why I had her on the show. And I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy giggling with us. I hope you enjoy the exercises that we get you to do. And Jo will be back next week. Hey Jill, welcome to the 1000 Authors Show podcast. And I feel like I should just say that we've just spent the last 4 minutes talking about the magical powers of lipstick.
We totally have, because I was just being au naturel, and then Vicky came on looking glamorous. I forgot that you record this for YouTube, so lipstick was required, and it's actually transformed my life. Like, I've just put the lipstick on, I feel like a whole new woman.
Yes. And Jill just said that I came on looking really glamorous, but actually what I have done is come on behind the Zoom filters, also with some lipstick, because I feel like my lips just disappear into my face otherwise, my pasty face. So yeah, we both now are wearing lipstick. If you are not watching the YouTube version of this, we look awesome, and you should totally check us out.
Totally, because this is like what working from home looks like now. Bit of lippy. We've probably both got our pajama bottoms on underneath these desks.
I've got my bright pink jogging bottoms on, and my friend Dan, he donated his jumpers to me, so I'm wearing a man's jumper as well.
Yay!
So that's my level of glam today.
Anything goes.
Right. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is Jill Robinson's book. But before we come to that, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, Jill?
So I'm Jill. And, I was just doing a little dance there for the listeners who couldn't see while you were doing that introduction. I'm Jill. I'm a Pilates and bar and holistic life coach, which sounds a bit woo, but it's not actually. It's all science-based and, lifestyle, all the things that we know we should be doing, but we probably don't do. So I have my own Pilates studio in County Durham, as you can probably tell by my accent. I'm from the north, and so I've been teaching now for about 5 years since I left the day job. I used to be a statistician for the government, so a bit of a transformation for me, but I've spent the last 5 years really delving into women's health, in particular hormonal health, women's strength training, fitness, all things, nutrition, everything, the whole health gamut really.
And this is totally awesome, because I am all about feminism and empowering women and all of the rest of it. And so I absolutely love that's your focus. And I especially love that your focus is on, let's say, slightly more mature women, because what did you call them? This invisible women, forgotten women.
The invisible women, yes, midlife women. When you hit it can happen, perimenopause can happen up to 10 years before menopause. And actual menopause, the average age for a woman to hit menopause is about 52. So anytime from your early 40s onwards, you can start feeling some of the changes in your hormonal landscape. And Yeah, so I think what a lot of my clients have said, that they get to their, their mid-40s and they're feeling good, and then suddenly they start becoming invisible in society, invisible. People overlook them in shops, and it's all that kind of, you feel like you're kind of going grayer in hair and everything else, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Well, no, it does not have to be like that. And this is part of the reason why I love it, because it's like, and it made me, what you just described then made me think about the beige phenomenon. And I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but like the little old ladies who just seem to wear beige and they just fade into the background. It's like, why do they do that? It's just like beige is, I think people just become beige.
And have you ever looked at a photograph? Like, I was just looking at some photographs of my gran, who I thought was like ancient when I was like 2 or 3 years old. But didn't they dress like old women back in the day? Like nowadays, like, I don't think I dress any different to how I did when I was in my 20s now. But like, my gran would have been my age when I was thinking she was like ancient, but she dressed like an old woman. And we don't do that anymore.
No, and we don't have to do that. And this is one of my, like, people who say dress your age, and it makes me want to like punch them in the face, because it's like, I will, like, if I'm 55, if I'm like 90 and I want to wear a miniskirt, I damn well will. It's like,
Exactly.
If you don't want to look at it, then A, fuck you, and B, look somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, those, you don't have to do that. You don't have to lose your muscle tone. You don't, I mean, look at me, I've got au naturel grey hair, you just got to rock
your
it.
Hair. Yeah, we were talking about hair, and I was like, I love your hair. It looks so amazing, and it's not grey anyway. It's silver.
Yes, it's silver,
like a halo.
I can sometimes make it blue if I wash it with blue shampoo, so I look like I've got blue rinse.
Well, as you know, my natural hair color is blue, so
yeah, of course, like a Smurf.
I am part of Smurf, yeah. Okay, so your focus then is on perimenopausal and menopausal women, which is awesome. Can you talk a bit about why that's your focus? What led you to decide to work with women of that age?
Yeah, well, of course, I'm heading towards that age myself, so I have a vested interest in this. And all of the women that I train are peri to post-menopausal women. And a lot of the times that they were coming to me going, oh, I feel like sort of tired all the time. I can't think. The thing is, estrogen affects the cell receptors. Every single cell in your body has an estrogen receptor. So it affects everything from your digestion to your skin to your hair, your brain, how you sleep, how your temperature. So when estrogen starts to decline out of your body, every single part of your body suddenly starts to, you feel bits that don't work, that you hadn't even thought you needed to work. So it affects everything. And I started like wondering what you can do. Like the only solution that was being offered to women was either put up with it and shut up, or take HRT. And then HRT started to get some bad reputations with, causing breast cancer. And then one scientific body said, don't do it. The next scientific body said, do it. And it's like all that confusion around HRT as well. So I was thinking there's got to be other ways that you can do this. It's not that I'm against HRT, by the way. I think if you need it, then you can have it. But there are lots of other things that you can continue to do, and maybe just tweak some of the stuff. And all the stuff that you did when you were young, like going to a massive calorie deficit and kill yourself at HIIT classes and stuff. You can't do that anymore. So there are ways to tweak things around for the mid-aged woman, not middle-aged. I don't like that word. No, wipe that one out there. I said that, mid-aged.
Mid-aged. No, but you're right though, and this is like, I'm really excited about this. It's such an important conversation to have, and it's such important work that you're doing, because it kind of feeds into the wider problem of like women's issues are just considered non-issues because they're not men's problems, and that absolutely drives me up the wall. And my favorite example of this is that I was like 41 years old before I was comfortable saying the word period out loud. How fucked up is that? And like I can sit here and blame my parents, and to a certain extent I do a little bit, but they gave me what they had, which was probably they did better than their parents did. But it's really infuriating because it's like, why is that something to be ashamed of? Why can we not talk about our bodies? Why can we not talk? And why does nobody tell us what happens when we get a bit older?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm always laughing on my podcast because I do it with my trainer Dan, and I'm always talking about periods. And he's like, I didn't sign up to talk about periods all the time, but it's so important. And you know what? Women go through this cycle every month. And I would say the majority of women don't have a clue what that means, what is going on with their hormones during the phases of your monthly cycle. And once you can get a grip on that, you'll start to understand why some days you want to go and hide away in a cave and other days you're like on fire with productivity. And if you can start planning your life around that a little bit more, a little bit better, then you can start like, you know, being the most productive person in the world. And then on the days when you're feeling like you're a bear that needs to go in a cave, you can plan your life around that. There's days when you should be lifting heavy weights during your monthly cycle. There's days when you should not be lifting heavy weights and be doing more of like kind of the work in and breathing exercises. So understanding your female cycle. And of course, if you link that, which is what I love to do, with Carl Jung's archetypes. So some days you're the crone, some days you're the maiden, other days you're the warrior, you know, start linking it. Like, I just love the whole Jungian archetypes to link that too, but it's such a good way to explain it all. And then when that cycle starts to peter out and get erratic and jump around all over the place, then that's a whole new conversation. But it's things that you can plan around. So it's dead interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. And the fact that like I've actually got the rage that I am 41 years old before I even started to understand all this stuff. Because it's like, why are we not taught this from an early age? And the only reason I've started to understand it recently, partly because of you, but partly because I've got this app on my phone called is it called Flow?
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, there's a few apps you can get.
No,
yeah,
it's really interesting because it's like, oh, this is what's happening to your body today, and this is what's happening now, and this is, and you might want to go and do this, and you might be feeling like this because of this, and it's just like, oh, that's so interesting.
And when you become more aware of it, it's so interesting. You can think like, oh, right, okay, I'm drop. Like some days you'll drop things or bump into things. You know, like some days you just have a day where you're just dropping stuff all the time, or you're banging into walls and things. And you can understand why that's happening on certain days. And it's just so interesting. Women need to know this stuff. And then also we need to like talk about, you know, the birth control pill, which just dampens down that whole thing. Whether you like it or not, we are biologically evolved to have babies. And that's what makes us kind of a female, that whole system and what that's doing every month to your brain. It's I always like to think of it as like the tide coming in and out on the sea, you know. So like as the tide comes in, you're kind of like flooded and you can't get on the beach, but then as the tide goes out, you've got that lovely clean area. And that's what it's doing every month for your brain. It's like coming in and out and clearing away everything, but then that stops. And if you are on birth control pills, you just dampen down that whole system. So it's I think a lot of women aren't actually aware that birth control pills were never tested on women for a start. It's probably the biggest female test ongoing in the world. Wow. They still don't know what the long-term effects of being on the pill are. Obviously there's lots of great things that the pill did, but I think plaster for a lot of other stuff that could be rectified through correct lifestyle and other interventions. So
yeah, it's really, and again, you know, it's like, yes, the pill was amazing for a variety of reasons. It liberated women and all the rest of it, but on the other side, it was like puts all the responsibility for birth control on women. Exactly. And once again, that enrages me. And it's like, you know, if you don't want to be a father, go and get the snip. But they don't like that idea.
Exactly. And funny how men invented it for their own benefits as well, you know. So it's, yeah, there are pros and cons, definitely pros and cons, but it's like anything, knowledge is power, isn't it? So once you start to research these things, and hopefully if anybody of you are out there on the birth control pill, just start looking up what it's actually doing to your body. And if that's something that you are happy with, then fine. But if it's something that you think, well, maybe I need to know a little bit more about this, do research it.
Yeah, this is what I love about you, because you're like, knowledge is power, and that's the thing. It's like, go find out what it might, exactly. You know, what the effects might be, and study what happens to you. And it's like, if you don't like it, go and ask for an alternative. And it's like, we don't feel like we can ask doctors and things about, but we can. And I'm going to ask you about your book in a second, but just before that, I just wanted to say as well, it's like there's this, like, women are 50% of the Earth's population, right? And there is so much that isn't known about us. And then you think, okay, so that in itself is frustrating. Then you think, goodness me, think about all of the other groups that are marginalized that we know even less about. It's like, you know, the whole focus has been on kind of men. And then it's like, well, we've got women that we don't know anything about. And then we've got like trans people and gay people and people who are not white. I mean, it's just like there's just so much work to do, and I just feel like you're doing some really important stuff looking at menopause and perimenopausal women. So yay.
I know. And when you come to the whole trans and you know, the gender stuff, when you think about your hormones, how powerful they are, and then they either putting hormones in or taking hormones away, it's such a massive undertaking. It's really interesting. I find hormones, you know, I think we're just a bundle of habits and hormones. It's either one or the other that governs your life. So learning which ones, what they're doing to you, and which habits are affecting you in a good way and a bad way. Awareness is everything, I think.
Yeah, totally is. Knowledge and awareness. And yeah, if people take nothing else away from this podcast, like all people everywhere, it's like awareness of what your body does and how it does it, and go learn stuff is just the most important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so your book. Tell us about your book, because I'm really excited about your book.
Yeah, so this wasn't the original book that I set out writing, which is still half written. This was, so the first original book was kind of like going to be how to be a holistic goddess, which was going to be the full gamut of everything that I talk about, like all the lifestyle things and the hormones and the habits and everything. But then I kind of got a bit waylaid, a bit like bowled under with the whole thing. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do is write a blog post on the 10 things that I think you should be doing as a peri to postmenopause women, the 10 most effective things for your body. And then that blog post turned into like really long. And I was thinking, this is more of a book than a blog post. But because I'd psychologically convinced myself I was writing a blog, not a book, it kind of just grew and grew and grew. Because I think writing the book was psychologically kind of, I'm writing a book. Whereas if I'm writing a blog, I kind of tricked myself into it, really, which is Atomic Habits, isn't it? He says, just be the person that goes to the gym, be the person who writes every day. So that's what I did. And so I thought of the 10 most important things that you should be doing as a woman, and wrote those, and wrote a chapter on each one of those things. And
awesome.
Yeah, so it's quite cool, because it's like, it's like everything. It's kind of a distilled version of my book, let's say.
Okay, so and that's when it. So you've basically written your second book before you've finished your first book.
Well, I don't like to do things the normal way. Linear is not a good thing for me to do.
You know what? Linear is overrated.
It's overrated.
Okay, so tell us a bit about what you want. Who is this book for, and what do you hope that people will get out of it when they're finished reading it?
Okay, so it's an ebook. So I've put loads of links to videos and stuff within the book to like bits of training. For example, I've got a whole section on the core. So there's all the videos around pelvic floor, how to find your pelvic floor. Most people don't have no clue how to find your pelvic floor. People say, do your pelvic floor exercises, and they haven't got a blooming clue what to do. They know it means squeezing something, but what do you squeeze? So so I've got a whole video section on the pelvic floor.
This is a quick aside, just like public service announcement. Explain to people what your pelvic floor is and how to find it, because you're right, people don't know this. So let's tell them so that they know.
Okay, can I go on a pelvic floor rant now as well?
Yeah,
a little rant. Yeah. So the NHS spends about 1% of its budget on incontinence, which is like, if you think, massive, it's like billions of pounds, and mostly it's because of they're just giving people pads. Though, you know, have you seen those Turner Lady ads as well? Like, you know, we're not wetting ourselves in the gym when we're doing squats and stuff, right? Really, women should not be wetting themselves when you cough, sneeze, or laugh. It is muscular. You can do stuff to help stop that happening. So finding your pelvic floor. So if you were just sitting up straight on your chair, imagine, well, do it now, Vicky, listeners. So you sit up straight on the chair. Just imagine you're just pulling your undercarriage up off the chair. See if you can just lift it. If you're sitting on a Swiss ball, even better, because you can really feel it on a Swiss ball. So you just need to like sit up nice and tall, get good posture, shoulders over hips, tummy in, and then just take a deep breath in, because it's linked to your breath. And as you exhale, just see if you can just draw up gently, like it's like lifting your undercarriage basically off the chair. That whole structure, and it's not squeezing your butt, because when you squeeze your butt, you'll just lift up. Those are your big glute muscles. It's the kind of the internal muscles. So that structure underneath there it's like a hammock. It hangs from the pubic bone round to the coccyx and the sit bone. So it's like a hammock, and it's really important. And you certainly know about it if it gets weak. And as estrogen, I talk really fast, don't I? I need to like slow down. As estrogen declines in your body, your joints and your muscles become more lax. So a lot of women start to suffer from incontinence, stress incontinence it is, when you cough, sneeze, laugh. It's that downward pressure onto the pelvic floor and the bladder that creates that. But the more you train it, it's like any muscle, the stronger it'll get.
Okay, so because the way that's really helpful, thank you, and hopefully that will help people, because obviously when I'm teaching stretch classes and things, one of the things are like, oh, it's squeeze your glutes, squeeze that, like pull your abs in. And one of the ways that I use to describe to people, because when people say, oh, I don't know what my pelvic floor is, and then I'm like, oh, why? But I say, imagine that you're trying to stop yourself weeing midstream. Is that a good explanation as well?
Yeah,
or is it more? Is there more to it?
There's more to it than that. That's what they used to say back in the day when women had just had babies. It was like that, stop yourself mid-flow. You can do that once or twice just to find out where the front muscle is. So that's the front muscle. There's another two behind it. But don't do that regularly, because don't do that as an exercise, because loads of people were getting bladder infections and stuff. So yeah, so it is. So you can do it. That's a front muscle. Then you've got the back passage muscle. So can I say sphincter on your podcast? So
you can say anything you like on this podcast.
I love it. You're like my podcast. Anything goes. So you've got your back passage muscle, your sphincter. So that muscle, like if you're trying not to break wind, so that's part of your pelvic floor muscle. That's actually the strongest. That's where the concentration of the muscles are in that muscle. In that muscle, but a lot of people think it's just squeezing their butt, and you can see them lifting up off the floor. So it's that back passage muscle. Then there's the vaginal wall muscle. So you've got to think about those coming together and then pulling up towards your belly button, a bit like an elevator door closing and then lifting up. So there's those three muscles. There's the front passage muscle, the one like where you stop yourself mid-floor. There's the vaginal wall muscles where we're drawing together and pulling up. And then there's the back passage sphincter muscles where you kind of close and just pulling up. Do you want to have a go? Shall we try all three?
Well, I was just about to ask a question, actually. Yes, I think we should try all three. But it's like, does that mean that more orgasms is good for your pelvic floor?
Yes. And in fact, the stronger your pelvic floor, the stronger your orgasms as well. So it's a win-win situation.
Win-win all round. But yeah, let's do this exercise.
Okay, so it's linked to your breath as well. So when you breathe out, that's closely linked to your pelvic floor as well, because it's a natural progression where as you breathe out, and I'll just get this right, the diaphragm lifts to push the oxygen out of your lungs, and the diaphragm's connected to the pelvic floor, so it'll pull up. So sit nice and tall, shoulders back and down, chin in, long spine, right onto the sit bones that you're sitting onto. We're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, and then slowly push out through the mouth as you draw up. 1, 2, 3 muscles all together. Hold it for a couple of seconds and then release. Do you get them?
Ooh. Yeah.
Now, another little cunning trick is if you've got your feet on the floor, because your feet and your pelvic floor are very closely connected, because you may be surprised to know that we weren't born with shoes on. And, as cave women, we didn't evolve to wear shoes. So there's a very strong connection between the foot and the pelvic floor. So when back in the day, when we were walking on uneven surfaces and our feet were getting all maneuvered around, that would switch on the pelvic floor. But nowadays we put our feet in flat shoes and we walk on flat surfaces. So we've lost the foot and pelvic floor connection. But here's a little trick. So if you're sitting upright again, and this time I'm going to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, this time pull up your pelvic floor, but push your feet down, just gentle pressure through the foot. And that'll help to switch on that connection a little bit more.
It totally did. That was so, I love learning things when people come on my podcast. That's so interesting. Okay, so that's all of this is in your ebook or your
that's
point?
all in my book. Yeah. So all the videos are there. It's also closely connected to your eyebrows. I don't know if anyone noticed that their eyebrows went up when they did their pelvic floor exercises. That's how I always tell if people are doing it right. Eyebrows and big toes curl. Your big toes curl up.
That's so funny. Okay, I'm going to notice all sorts of things from now on.
Yeah, you can totally tell when people are doing it right.
So this book then, it sounds like, so we've just gone through one of the things that's in it, which
that's one of the chapters, yes.
So what else? I mean, I'm not going to get you to go through the whole book. People can go and buy your book, and they should buy your book. But what are you hoping? Why is it out there? What are you hoping it will do for women?
Right.
And
so
men?
One of the things around that I talk about in my book is mindset, because mindset is huge when you're going through these kind of, firstly, the women who I'm targeting are usually called the sandwich generation. And that means that we're normally working full time. We've got kids who depend on us. And we've also got the other end, our parents are getting older and require more. And we're also the generation who volunteers more for anything else, as well as do the lion's share of the housework and all of that kind of headspace around your kids and management of the kids. I read somewhere a really good explanation of it, like that we're kind of the CEO, the top manager, you know, that overarching thing. Yeah. Like your husbands will help you, but they don't have that kind of overview, that strategic overview of how things are working, you know, so it's really interesting. Anyway, so with the sandwich generation, so we've got a lot on our plate. So usually the health of yourself, self-care is it comes last. And it's particularly bad because we're going through all of these bodily changes that you're either ignoring and just hoping that they're going to go away, and they're not, or you just don't have any time. You just want to take a quick pill and they'll be gone. But that's not going to happen. So this book was just kind of like the 10 quick things that you can do every day that can fit into your life. And that's the most important thing, fitting stuff into your life. I'm not recommending that you meditate for 2 hours every morning and then go and lift weights for an hour in the gym, followed by, you know, smoothies of kale. And it's like, that is just not going to happen. You want stuff that you can just do. And if you could even do 2 of the things, the 2 of the chapters, let's say, you would feel benefits from them. Like drink enough water and get enough sleep are like 2 massive ones I could just think of, you know, to do.
Yeah, I have to force myself to drink water, which is bizarre because I love drinking water, but I just forget. It's just like you just forget. So
yeah, exactly.
Right, I love the sound of your book. I'm really excited about it. And we're actually running out of time. I could talk to you forever about this, so we're going to have to come back and talk about books again. Yes. But before we go, have a couple more questions. First of all, when is your book available? Where can people get it from? And do you want to wave it?
Like I say, I can wave it around here. It's available right now. It's on my website. Like I said, it's an ebook because I need to work out how to get all the videos and stuff in a proper book. That's my next stage, obviously. So it's an ebook at the moment. It's on my website under the shop section. So www.organicpilates.co.uk/shop, and you'll see it in there. It's called Unleash Your Holistic Goddess, the 10-step program to blitzing your belly fat, harmonizing your hormones, and regaining your radiance.
Ooh, I like the idea of regaining radiance. That's cool.
We all need a bit of regaining radiance.
We do, especially like in February in the middle of a global pandemic. So yes.
Yeah.
The longest winter ever. But yes, I'm going to put the link in the show notes as well.
Fabulous.
So people can go and have a look at that. And I was going to ask you all sorts of stuff about the process of writing your book and all the rest of it, but that's going to have to wait until the next time you come on the show. Because this time we've just talked about like orgasms and pelvic floor muscles and generally not being invisible, which is, I think, more important, to be honest. So
that could be like the title of my next book. The Non-Invisible Guide to Pelvic Floor and Orgasms. Yeah.
Love it. And you know what? Yeah, do it, because that will get, it's a good book title. It'll get you noticed, and it's very descriptive. But I'm going to stop babbling, and I'm going to be like, Jill, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It's really lovely. You're doing really important stuff, and so I thoroughly recommend that like literally anybody, but especially peri and menopausal and postmenopausal women, come and have a look at what you're doing at Organic Pilates, because it's just really important, and everything you do is fun. Like, you, every time we've met in person or online, you just make me smile, and I think that in itself is super important. And also, where's your podcast? Where can people check out your podcast?
Oh yeah, my podcast is called the Small Business Whole Health Podcast, and it's on iTunes, Spotify, all of those things. And can I just mention my Menopower course as well, which is starting on the 1st of March. So if you read the book, you might want a little help with all the other stuff as well. So I'm running a 4-week program. It's called Menopower. And basically, you're going to get unlimited access to all of my classes, so my Pilates and strength training classes, as well as I'm going to do some live trainings on hormones, the female cycle, like what we've just talking about, the archetypes, also bone health, brain health, gut health, all of that kind of stuff that starts to change as you get older, but it's massively more important than how you look in a bikini. So, as well as that.
As well as that. But this is a whole other rant that I could go on. It's like, is your body bikini ready? It's like, yes, I can put a fucking bikini on. Therefore it's ready.
I have a body, I have a bikini. Therefore, I'm bikini ready.
Yeah, exactly. And I think all of the stuff that you do and it's like, it's all about feeling confident in what you're wearing, isn't it? And all the stuff that you will give you that, will help you to build that confidence anyway, because you will start to look better and, more importantly, feel better if you are doing all of this good stuff for your body. So.
Exactly. And it's not just about looking good in a bikini. It's actually, can your bones actually hold you up? Have you got muscle strength to be able to carry your shopping? Whatever, just make your life easier. No, it's not all about what you look like. It's about how you're feeling. Yeah.
100%. And I think that is the perfect notes to end this interview on. So Jill, thank you so much.
You're very
can't wait
welcome.
to talk to you again soon. And I will be back same time next week.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Jill. That was such a great interview. I haven't giggled that much for ages. I really hope that you enjoyed listening to it, dear listener. Joe will be back same time next week. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from and give us a rating, 5 stars. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you think that somebody else that you know would like this podcast, send them to moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast. The links to Jill's website are below. And the link to her podcast is below as well. So you should totally go and check those out. And in the meantime, I have 3 spots open for my VIP creative book coaching program at the moment, which is moxiebooks.co.uk/creative-book-coaching. So if you feel like you'd like to write a book of your own, come join me. It's a 6-month coaching experience. It is pretty damn amazing, if I say so myself. I'm really proud of it. And all the people who have gone through it or are going through it think it's pretty flipping great too. So come and have a look, see what you think, fill in an application form. Otherwise, we'll be back same time next week. Thank you so much.
Addendum.
We absolutely can do an addendum. Okay, so this is going to go out just after the credits because I like to be hilarious. But just after we stopped recording, Jill pointed out that men have pelvic floors too. So Jill, just very quickly, why is it important that they keep up with their pelvic floors?
Well, erectile dysfunction, bladder weakness, bowel weakness, prostate problems can be linked to the pelvic floor in men as well. They don't have the inherent weakness that we have. It's like building a suspension bridge and putting a hole right in the middle of it for women, whereas men still have the suspension bridge, which is much stronger, but they still have problems with it as well. So they can still do all that. When we talked about the vaginal wall muscles, they've got the same muscular structure. It's just they need to what's it called? Testicles to spectacles. That's what they need to think about.
Testicles to spectacles. Do you know what? I'm really tempted to call this podcast episode Testicles to Spectacles.
I love it. But people will have to wait to listen to right to the end to find out why you've called it that.
Yeah, good point. It's going to go in the show notes description, certainly, because it's hilarious. Okay, and on that note, this really is the end of this episode.